Either we throw a bunch of money at rent while we build, or we build this shed house, and that way we can take our time. We can be on our property. My husband will do some of our build, and so he can be here and like oversee it. And the reason we went with a shed rather than just building a small little house is if it's a shed and you don't go over 16 feet wide, you can actually have it moved off your property. So we can sell it to another family. We priced out what these are selling for, and we're like, okay, great. So we can live for free, and we could turn around and sell it for way more than what we put into it.
My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. On this podcast, I like to talk about simplifying your life so you can live out your priorities. I help you learn how to cook from scratch and decorate on a budget through this podcast and my courses, Simple Sourdough and the Simple Sewing series. I also help people reach their goals from home through my business courses, Create Your Blog Dream and YouTube Success Academy. I will leave links to these resources in the show notes and description box below. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today, I'm having on Natalie from Home of Hollands over on Instagram and YouTube. We are going to talk about how she and her husband took a 16 by 48 foot shed and turned it into a beautiful tiny home with ample space for cooking from scratch and homeschooling their 4 children on property. So the idea was to live mortgage-free on a piece of property. So many of us want to do that, but then financially we try to figure out how we could do it. You know, maybe we could live in an RV. Maybe we could live in a tent, just something to get us out on property. She came up with a beautiful solution. And I think you're going to find this conversation very interesting. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. I think a lot of people are going to find your story very fascinating. A lot of people have already heard of your story because if, like me, they saw your viral reel where you discuss your story and show the before and after of the shed that you turn into a very beautiful home.
Thank you.
A lot of questions. Like there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions. Normally Leanne, my podcast manager, puts a question box over on Instagram, but I'm like, this time just go to that reel and look at what people are asking because that has already had a lot of interest and discussion. So let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
First, tell us what you and your husband did, what we're going to talk about here.
Yeah. So we were trying to think of an idea. Okay. We were moving from Texas to South Carolina and there's like no rentals here. And so we thought, okay, how can we live with a little bit less each month but still be on property, because we want to build a house. And so we started like toying with ideas. We've actually lived in a renovated RV before that we renovated in 2021. We only had 3 boys at the time and we lived in it for about 6 months, but we knew we didn't want to do that route again. And so I came to my husband and I was like, what if we like take a shed and make it into a house? And so we kind of just started like playing with floor plans and thinking, okay, can we do it? And so we basically drew it out on graph paper, had it designed into actual floor plans, and then found property and ordered it. And my husband, built it out. And it's 16 feet wide by 48 foot long. So it's about 750 square foot, not counting the loft.
Wow. Yes. And so the loft adds an additional, I believe, bedroom for the kids.
Yes. It's about 150 square foot and it's a large loft. They cannot stand. It's only little over 3 feet tall, but they can all sit up and play. They don't really mind. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're on property. So for people who live on property, the goal is kids being outside like most of the day. And I'm always talking about on my channel, like how to keep a clean house. And I'm like, declutter and all of this. And I realize now, like speaking from a person in the middle of winter where we have like 8 inches of snow on the ground, that works all year until winter. And now I am literally cleaning nonstop because the kids are inside. And when they come in and out, they're dropping all of their snow. And like, there's just snow and wet and boots. And there's like really nothing you can even do. No. So normally when you're on property, kids are outside all day. And it's very easy to keep a clean house.
It is.
Right now it's a little tough.
It is a little tough. We're supposed to be getting our first snow this weekend, but it doesn't snow a ton here. However, there's a lot of red dirt and it will make you go a little bit insane. So that's a fun challenge, but everything's super washable. And we put in a 30 by 30 shop that's connected by a porch to the shed. And
Okay.
and it has concrete, and they play out there even when it is so cold. They bundle up and they like get on their scooters and their bikes and they like just
Uh-huh.
ride around all day. So that has been really nice.
Yeah, that really makes a small home very livable, like having good space that they can play that's not in the home. And for me, like most of the year, we don't spend a ton of time in our home. We spend sleeping time and eating time, but the rest of the time, there's other spaces. So we've always lived, I think people consider it to be a relatively small home. I mean, it's nothing compared to you, but I think our last home was around 2,400 square feet. This one's around 2,400 square feet.
Yeah.
And it actually, most of the year feels plenty big. It
Right.
doesn't feel, and we have 8 kids. And now we have neighbors. So we have like at least 10 kids in the house at all times.
Yes.
So that's a whole different thing.
For sure. It helps when you have that outdoor space.
Yeah. And so for you, it was mostly driven by this goal to get out on property. I don't really know what brought you to South Carolina. Was it a certain property that you saw, or was it a job that brought you there?
Well, so we were originally from California. We moved to Texas, the Houston area, about 3 years ago. And we just didn't have any family there. We moved there for my husband's job, but he really was feeling the pull to move away from that job and start his own company, just to have that like passive income and freedom. Because we do homeschool, and he really wants to be a part of our family and not like see you later, go to work, and And so we had a beautiful property in Texas. It had multiple houses on it. One was a rental, but we were just so tired of that like monthly like grind, right? Where you're like, it's so stressful, and the rental was kind of stressful. And so we listed that for sale. We had renovated both houses. So we listed that for sale. And we just really wanted to live mortgage free for a little bit, so that my husband could start his own company. And we didn't love living there. We love Texas, but it was just miserably hot, and there was like always storms. We never had power. And so my sister actually moved to South Carolina about 3 years ago, upstate South Carolina. And it is so beautiful here. The weather is amazing, and there's so many outdoor things to do for the kids, where there wasn't really that option in Texas. It was just too hot. And so we were like, why do we live here? If we could live anywhere, let's go there. It's not here. And so we just sold everything. My husband started his own business, and then we've just been moved here. We lived in a temporary rental while he built this out. It took him 2 months, which is really fast.
Wow.
I don't really recommend it. It was 2 months. It was actually a little bit less than 2 months. Obviously the shed came like built, but then to build it out, and he did everything except for the drywall finishing and the insulation. And so him and my, at the time, 10-year-old son worked all day, every day. It was kind of bananas, but they did it. And so we lived in a temporary furnished rental, and then we were able to move in here. So, and it's been nice not having any.
That is crazy fast.
It was so
for those who haven't yet watched your content over on Instagram, Home of Hollins, go watch, and you will be amazed at how great this looks. So I was actually showing my husband last night because he was like, who are you interviewing tomorrow? And I'm like, well, you got to see it. They took a shed and turned it into a home, and there was of course like skepticism in that. But when he saw it, he was like, wow, like they did a really good job. So tell us a bit about the plannings. Like you said, you put together a floor plan. How did that work out to where you actually have this home that looks very comfortable? It looks like you actually have like good kitchen space, living room space for everybody. How did that all play out?
So when we were designing it, I literally took a graph paper, and, each graph was a square foot, and I drew the shed, which is just a perfect rectangle. And I knew that the kitchen had to be large because I, like you, make everything from scratch, and we live in our kitchen. And so I knew that had to be a bulk of it. And most shed houses I've seen, the kitchen's kind of in the middle and very small. So it's just why we put it on
they
one
put,
end
like,
of the
bedrooms
house.
on each side of it
I
usually?
think so. Or like a living room. Yeah. And so we wanted to kind of walk into that living room area, have like a little hall closet or entry closet, and then a large U-shaped kitchen. And the kitchen is definitely the biggest kitchen I've ever had in any of my houses.
Wow.
It's very large. But we knew, we're in there so much. We were able to do a little like dine-in nook area, which, as you know, when you're homeschooling, everyone gravitates towards that dining table if you don't have a homeschool room. And even if you have a homeschool room, I feel like everyone still ends up at the dining room. You probably
still don't use it. Yeah.
And so we did a little like built-in with a bench, and we store school stuff under there. And then, so we knew we needed that living room. And then the bedroom, it's not the biggest bedroom, but I mean, it fits perfectly. We have one family closet. We did a pantry and then one bathroom. And it hasn't been that bad. And then the boys, the older boys sleep upstairs. And there's lots of floor space. They play with their Legos and Magnetiles and stuff up there. So
right.
They honestly love it up there. We've had a lot of criticism around that, the kids that they can't stand in their room. But really, when you live like we do and you share your whole home with the children, right? They don't have their room, you have your room. It's our home. And so they sleep up there and they play with their Legos up there. But most of the time they're down here with us or they're outside.
Yeah, I find it interesting the way we've always used our homes, that there's actually space that goes unused if there's too much dedicated to a bedroom. So in our last house and this house, the layout's very, very similar, almost identical in a lot of ways. And there's like the bedroom space almost doesn't. We have one bedroom that nobody even sleeps in. It's because it's connected and there's all these boys. They all sleep in the same room, not because we make them, but because they just do. So we have this one large bedroom with two very nice beds in it. And nobody even uses it. So it's completely wasted space. And if I could redesign, which we are currently designing a home, I would take from that and I would throw it at the kitchen that's so small. So I think sometimes we just see the square footage and just assume every part of it's getting used equally when it totally is not. And again, our kids could sleep in that room. We have the space. They sleep 5 boys in one not very large room, which is just... It's funny. I think a lot of times this criticism comes from people who don't have a lot of kids or kids at all.
Maybe.
And they just imagine what they think they would want. But it's hard to understand that family culture that you have.
Right. Yeah. And my children have said, I've asked them, I'm like, do you mind sleeping up? And they're like, we love it, Mom. Like we don't mind it at all. People have said that we, that's like not ideal. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, we think it's great. I mean, so, and like I said, this isn't our long-term, home, but we are going to be here probably 18 months to 2 years by the time it's all said and done. But when we were doing the math on rent, I mean, that's like $60,000.
Okay. So actually you didn't share that yet. What is your long-term plan for the shed house? And then what is your plan for the future for your acreage that you have?
Sure. So we are going to build a house. We're going to start it hopefully mid-year this year.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we were trying to think, okay, either we throw a bunch of money at rent while we build, or we build this shed house. And that way we can take our time. We can be on our property. My husband will do some of our build. And so that way he can, be here and like oversee it. And then also we thought, okay, 60 grand over 2 years in rent is a lot of money. We built this for 68,000.
Okay.
So really, that's a pretty good, almost a wash. And then we started doing research. And the reason we went with a shed rather than just building a small little house is if it's a shed and you don't go over 16 feet wide, you can actually have it moved off your property. So we can sell it to another family. And then we have a company that comes, they put it on a truck and they move it. And so we priced out, did some research what these are selling for. And we're like, hey, great. So we can live for free and we could turn around and sell it for way more than what we, put into it.
Oh, I imagine so. Because somebody could get a ready-made house that if your family isn't super large, and, I always picture when they're all teenagers, like right now, I think we could just about live in a 16 by 48, to be honest with you. But when they're all, teenagers, I think that might be a little bit more difficult. But for some families, that could just be your actual, there won't have to be a future plan. And to think
Exactly.
in this market, that price, like if you were able to buy something like that for,
Right.
I'm sure you guys are going to make a profit on it, but even something for under 100,000, that's an interesting thought that you could just literally build it and then sell it later.
And then you can sell it. Or we can move it to a different piece of our property and like Airbnb it out. I mean, there's so many options.
Yes.
This would be perfect for like an older couple, like a retired couple who they don't need a ton of space, something big to take care of. So
and then the grandkids can sleep in the loft when they come over.
Totally. Yeah. So that's the plan. That's kind of how we were thinking. Okay, how are we going to get the most out of, what we're putting into it? And we just really wanted to be on property. We asked our kids, would you rather live in a neighborhood?
Yes.
Or would you rather be on our property? And they're like, oh, we would sleep in a tent if it means we get to be on the property. So that was their vote.
I'm feeling that right now because we're building a house on a farm and we decided instead to buy a house in town close by. That way we could be able to sell our homestead property because it was much more expensive than this house in town. But I need to get back out to the farm so bad.
Yes.
It needs to happen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit, but oh man, if we could just have something like that. Honestly, if there was one for sale for what you guys paid for it, I mean, I would buy it. We'd be out there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just didn't even think about that. That's so interesting.
It's definitely different, but it was, we were really trying to avoid, and it really stemmed from looking at rental houses in this area and there was nothing. It was like $2,500 for a 900 square foot house that I was like, I can see the mold. Like it looks really scary. So, there's just not a lot because people here, it's like a hidden gem and people don't leave. And so there's just not a lot of options. Okay. And so that was really where we were thinking, okay, but we didn't want to, do the RV route again. So that's how we came up with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody that wants to live on property at some point gets some kind of idea like this in their head, like either a wall tent. I know a family that I follow online that did that. An RV. I know many families that have done that. Our builder actually said, he was like, he was telling us he doesn't like when people put an RV on the property because then he feels really rushed. He's like, just don't move out here with an RV. So apparently they must do it a lot because he told us not to do it.
Yes.
Which part of me is like, I think I want to kind of push you along a little bit. I think I'm about looking at that RV right now. Well, look at poor us and our 8 kids here, like build faster.
You have to get it done. We're going crazy.
Yes. But I think everyone who wants to live on property at some point has considered one of these alternative plans because it's so pricey to buy both a home and a property. And so how could we maybe trade some of our square footage for living on land? I think that people get a lot of ideas. This is like, the ultimate hack. Like, how can I both have what I want, but yet also live mortgage free? And then tiny house living comes up as a result of that. And so I think the way you've blended, that's what I was so fascinated about your story is it's not an RV because honestly, I just don't think I could do it.
It's hard.
It's beautiful. And it feels like people do kind of have their own space where they can sort of get, separate if they want to go read a book or, just so many reasons why you'd want a little bit of extra space.
Yeah.
It seems like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And it functions just like a house, like you have your normal pantry, you have your stove and your dishwasher and everything, your washer and dryer, everything's, normal. It's just smaller and a little bit louder.
Small. Right.
But yeah, and it's actually kind of crazy to me how it has blown up. When I posted it, I never expected my reels to go viral like they did. And so we had so many people actually asking us for the floor plan. So we actually had them made. So I created a design guide and a floor plan that people can purchase. And
that's cool.
I'm honestly blown away by how many people who have purchased it and that are going to do this. I just love it. I love that we could inspire people.
I'm not surprised, honestly. Yeah. It's the ultimate dream. I mean, and I actually know families in real life, 2 different families who have done something similar. It wasn't a shed, but it was a similar, using a very tiny space and reimagining it for a large family. I've been to both their houses and they both live on property and they're beautiful and functional. And so I'm not a naysayer. I 100% see how comfortable they can be when done right. And not everybody can imagine it. So that's why it's cool that you actually offer the plan. We'll leave that link below.
Yeah.
So what all does that include? Like just the floor plan? How does that all play out? Now, is this something you could hire out or most people are probably going to want to DIY it?
Yeah. So it's not like a engineered floor plan, but it is a floor plan to show you. So it's a floor plan we actually used. We did make some edits, but we gave it to the shed builder and it told them like exactly where to put the windows and the front door. And so we added a couple windows because we weren't sure exactly, but now that they're in, we added those to the floor plan for the people who are, going to do this. So that's the floor plan we used. You literally to PDF, give it to the shed builder. They built it out. And then it also told my husband where to frame out the bathroom and the bedroom and the stairs and all that good stuff. And then it tells you what cabinet sizes to get. And then I also included my design guide, all my like paint colors and the cabinets we used, countertops we used, all those sources. So, and then it also answers a lot of questions that people have had on how do you do the foundation? How did you do the air conditioning and the plumbing? All that. It outlines everything. That my husband actually typed that out because I know a little bit about it, but not as much as he does.
Yeah.
He has to sometimes get on my Instagram and answer people's questions. I'm like, someone's asking something.
Right.
Like, okay,
you take over on this.
I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just here for the design. We have learned a lot though. It's, so we learned a lot along the way. And so it's kind of nice too, to share that with others. And we put things in there that we would have changed too and done differently. So we're happy to share.
Yeah. I know you did a lot of sourcing on Facebook Marketplace. I'm pretty sure it was your reel where I was reading questions and somebody said something like, this isn't cheap. You have an expensive stove. And you're like, I found that on Facebook Marketplace. People, there's actually hacks for that. You don't have to always go buy something. Like people get criticized nonstop for everything online.
Yes. It's actually funny how many people have said, I think your range is worth more than your house. And it actually really made us laugh. But yeah, we got all of our appliances, which are really nice, on my Facebook Marketplace and my countertops for like $450.
It makes it look so upgraded.
Totally. It's And when you use it as much as we do, it was absolutely worth it. And so it really, it was basically the same price as like another, decent range. So yes, Facebook Marketplace, anything you need.
Yes. Always a good hack. Yep. Yes. Everything is not always as it appears. There are ways to get things cheaper.
Absolutely.
Everybody, just dig deeper, drive really far. That's what you're doing. There's a little bit of work involved.
We did. We had to drive kind of far for the range, but I saw it and I was like, I think I bought it before we even moved here. I messaged the woman. I was like, will you please hold this for me? I will send you money. Like, what do you need?
Right.
And she was so nice. She held it for us. We had to drive an hour and a half, but it was absolutely worth it, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a quick break to tell you about the Modern Homesteading Conference 2025. I spoke at this last year in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I will be going again this June to speak alongside some amazing homesteaders on topics like gardening, DIY, sustainable living, traditional skills. This conference is held in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. You can learn from the best in modern homesteading, including Will Harris, Melissa K. Norris, Dr. Ken Berry, Ruth Ann Zimmerman, Daniel Salatin, Dr. Patrick Jones, Ann of All Trades, myself, and other top names in the homesteading community. There's live demonstrations and presentations on preserving, fermenting, sourdough, cheese making, seed saving, cutting out the big feed bills for livestock, herbalism, beekeeping, dairy cows and goats, ancestral eating for health, leather and buckskin hide tanning, home butchering, and many more topics. You can also network with like-minded people who share your passion for self-sufficiency and traditional living. This was my favorite part of the whole event. I got to network and meet with so many people who were like-minded. In your own circle, sometimes you might be the weird one who enjoys some of these more traditional skills. But here, everybody has the same interest. You can bounce ideas off each other, ask questions. It's held in Coeur d'Alene, which offers a stunning backdrop to connect with nature and learn. Secure your spot today. Tickets are limited and selling fast. You can visit modernhomesteading.com. for details. And don't forget to use the code farmhouse15 for 15% off adult general admission tickets. Again, go to modernhomesteading.com and use the code farmhouse15. Now, did your property already have on it the well, electricity, anything like that? Like, are you including any of that in the price of this? So that infrastructure stuff?
Yeah. So the price in the 68,000, that is just for the shed and building it out. A lot of people have asked about the other stuff. And obviously, I mean, that's really dependent on, what situation, what your situation is, but we did add a septic
how
system.
Far from the road?
Right. Exactly.
Like that all matters.
But to give people an idea, adding a septic system, running water and power from the road and then also like the foundation to put the house on and like the rock. And then you also have to have a deck because it's raised up. So you would just fall out the front door. So you have to have something. So all of that was about 15 to 20,000, just to kind of give people an idea. That was what it was for us.
Yeah.
And that was obviously my husband running water from the road, power, and all that good stuff. And then we had obviously septic system put in, but the septic system also, it's bigger than we need for this house, but we just put it in for our actual house too. So we only had to do it one time.
Okay. Okay. Because will your future house go very close to where your shed house is?
Yeah, it's like right. It's very, very close. So it'll be, because like our shop is right here by the shed house. And this is actually, so we permitted for an RV pad. That's actually what the shed is on, is an RV pad. So that way, when it's gone, if we do have family or visitors that have an RV, they can park it right here and hook it up. So
I did not think of that. That makes sense that you'll still have that.
Or we'll do a smaller one maybe. But yeah, that's, and that was another thing that a lot of people have asked is, how did you get it permitted? And that's obviously, it's so dependent on where you live. Texas, we lived in Texas and we lived in a house that people literally just like built in their friends' back of their property. You could do anything you want. You have no permits.
You can do anything here too.
Anything. Okay.
Yeah, so people always ask me like, what about? And I'm like, no.
What state are you in?
I'm in Missouri.
Okay. So it really depends on the area. Some places have super strict stuff. So we've been we can't really answer that question for people directly. I mean, we could tell you,
right,
this is what we did, but it depends on where you live. So
yes. And it's county specific. Like I think that there are plenty of counties in Missouri where it would be way more regulation and code. Right. I mean, just some counties nearby me are like that, but it depends like how rural you are too. I think like we're more rural. And so there's not as much planning and zoning and stuff like that.
That's exactly. So it's really dependent on where you live, but we always just recommend people find out what you can do and then get creative from there.
Yeah. What about if someone doesn't have the cash for that? Is there a way, and this could be a dumb question, but would the bank loan you money for something like that?
This is something I don't know, because we did pay cash.
Right.
And I've had so many people ask me this and I wish I had an answer.
Okay. Yeah.
I wish someone out there would be like, yes, I did it, and could like tell me. So far, we haven't. I know the shed companies, they do some sort of financing. But as far as building it out, however, I don't know. I think it depends too on like your relationship with your bank. Maybe if you had a smaller bank.
Credit.
Yeah. And because really which is very silly that it's technically a manufactured home. I mean, it is built just like a manufactured home.
But they do loan money
and they do loan them for that. So I don't know. I would like to see people get creative and figure out how to finance them, because I think that's a lot of people's holdup with this is they would love to do this because even if they had to pay a contractor to
such
do
a cheap
it,
mortgage,
it would still be less than a house and easier. And I would just love to see people be able to finance it, because yes, not everyone has that, the means and the cash to do that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Right. I mean, we didn't, when we first got married, our goal was mortgage-free living as well. But when we first got married, we got a mortgage because we didn't just come into marriage with and we got in really cheap living because we got married in 2007. So we bought a house in 2008. So, it wasn't like a ton, but we still didn't have $100,000 just laying around. And most people don't.
No.
So I was just curious what that would look like. And okay, tell me again, or explain further why it would be so much cheaper to build out a 16 by 48 shed versus like a 16 by 48 rectangular house with the same dimensions.
I think it could potentially be around the same price. I think it is cheaper, I guess, because the shed, you're doing a lot of the work.
Right. Because it's very straightforward. It's already like, I would not know how, and not that we'd know how to do a lot of this, but I could see us feasibly doing that over building from scratch a house.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, where the savings comes in. However, the appeal to doing the shed is one, that part's already done for you. And two, if you do want to sell it and move it off your property, you can.
Right.
And so that's kind of, because we have had people say, well, why didn't you just build a house? And and that's why we didn't, is so we can, eventually sell it and move it. Mm-hmm. And then that part was already done for us.
Right.
And we started the build of the shed before we even moved to South Carolina.
Okay.
So it was already like being built.
Right.
So right after we got here, it was, ready for us. Like we weren't waiting on it. It was waiting on us actually to be delivered.
Yes.
And then
I could see how that would be important in a lot of scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, you could do what you can and then sub out what you can't. So like finishing drywall, my husband was like, I have no idea how to finish drywall, or I don't, that's one thing he didn't want to learn. But everything else he either knew how to do or he watched on YouTube. Like he did the electrical and the plumbing. And he had never done electrical. We were going to hire it out. And he was talking to some electricians and they were like, it's easier than you think. Get on YouTube and watch some videos. And he did it. And he was like, it really wasn't that hard.
Maybe for also such a small house, I feel like it'd be less complicated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the process like for moving it? I'm curious, like what has to come out and what stays intact? Like just.
Yeah. It's a great question. I think when we move it, basically anything on the walls, we'll bring down. And then, mostly just furniture and like shelving, I think, but everything else will stay the same. Like the heating and air conditioner system is like on the wall on the back. And so that stays, it's like attached to the house. And so when you move it, there is going to be some cracking in the drywall, but we'll just, have our drywall guy come in and refinish that. But it shouldn't be too much. We will come in and we'll add like probably some like braces in the ceiling so it doesn't like move too much. But other than maybe removing like the light fixtures that are like, hanging and like the open shelving, I think everything else, and furniture will be okay.
Just will stay.
I suspect it's kind of like.
I'm sure you're going to take your oven and just put that in your new house. I mean, I'm just going to guess.
We want the same one, but like a bigger one. But I told my husband, I was like, what if I just get a second one and we just put them side by side? I think that would be a great. So
there you go. I could like that.
And so he's laughing. Yes. He's like, well, when you list it, you got to take it out before because they're going to want that thing. And I'm like, I know. So
yes. Right. Yeah, that cannot be in the pictures.
I'm like, the appliances are coming with me.
With your Instagram following, you probably should almost leave it as is. And then you'll get top dollar. I mean, just saying, people love it how it is.
We've already have people have DM'd me and they're like, "Are you selling this? When are you? Sure. Can I be on a list?" And I'm like, "I will post it here first. I promise."
One person gets it.
I know. I'm like, it's only one person, but unless I Airbnb it out. List. But so we will share on there when it is for sale. We would love to keep it, but our plan is to have the smallest mortgage possible on our build. And so that's obviously, money that we'll put towards that, so, but it's crazy. We've seen ones sell that are not this, like nowhere near this attractive. They're like very brown.
The finishes and everything.
Yeah. And they sell for like $130,000 finished, which is crazy.
I mean, I'm not surprised because with the way the market is, that's still very cheap living. for most areas. Now, the area that I'm in right now, it's not. That wouldn't be. But for a lot of areas, I mean, it'd be cheap, but not for that size. Like you could get a house already. But for so many areas across the country, their just jaw would hit the floor. Now, how far could you transport it? Because I bet you, like, if you live over in California, well, probably the zoning
probably could.
So is there even a hack here? Like, can somebody who lives in a really expensive area, is there a hack? Because really, it's probably just the property that's worth so much in a lot of areas.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the property, I think you could build it for about the same. If you were doing it yourself, you could absolutely build it for what we built it. Because we got everything from Lowe's and Home Depot. It's not like, so that I'm assuming is similar prices in every state, but it's the land. Absolutely. However, this would be a great option, though, for someone who maybe has a family member with land and they want to build on the land, but they don't necessarily want to. So if you build on someone's land and you want to sell your house, you're like, well, you can't, right? Because it's on their property. But this would be great because then if you wanted to sell it, you sell it and it moves. So
that was the ultimate catch for me because my parents have always had property. And before we bought our farm, we thought, well, we could. I'm like, I just wouldn't do that because no matter what, like if you aren't satisfied with that in 5 years for whatever reason, which you know how life is, like something sounds like a really good idea and then it doesn't, you are not selling it. Like you cannot. Now, what about like, you're still putting in a lot of that infrastructure, right? Like you're still putting in some things that you really couldn't get back, but at least you're not, a whole house isn't going to just stay there.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that's why we did like the water, septic, power, all of that was for our big house too. And so that was kind of a nice, like one time. And then clearing the land was also because this was raw land. There was nothing. And it's like on a hill. Thankfully, my brother-in-law who lives here, that's what he does. And so he was actually able to clear the land and do all that for us before we even got here. And like made us a pad for this and for our shop. And so that was nice. So that expense is already done. So when we go to build our house, we already have our power, water, septic, and cleared land, which was, a large expense that now. You're building. So,
Yeah, we haven't even started. Like we just have the stuff like the electricity, the driveway. And it's like, wow, taking raw land and making it into something that you can actually build a house on is already a big deal.
It is.
In a lot of cases. Yeah.
It is expensive. I mean, the land is cheaper, but it's a lot of work. It was more work than we thought it was going to be, but we learned a lot. And I mean, we would do it again. We know we love where we're at. So it's been a journey the last 6 months, but
how long have you been in your shed house?
So we moved in here the beginning of October. So we moved here July 1st to South Carolina, and we were in the rental for 3 months because the first month my husband was they were finishing preparing the land for the shed and building the pad and stuff. And so then we had the shed delivered August 6th and we moved in it was exactly, I want to say it was October 6th.
Wow.
It was like exactly 2 months later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Many years ago, when I was pregnant with my 5th child, I decided to add YouTube to my internet business to diversify and open up a whole world of opportunities. Many things have changed about YouTube since that day. A lot of things, honestly, have remained the same, but I love to educate students on how to create an income from home through YouTube with my YouTube Success Masterclass, which you can find over at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, all lowercase. There I share the mistakes that I made when I first got started, how you can achieve success faster, and how to earn a diverse and stable income from the YouTube platform. So if you are interested in using video to reach a wider audience for a business you already have, or you're just curious about what it might look like to incorporate YouTube into your life as a homemaker or a stay-at-home mom, go ahead and check out that free masterclass that I put together for you.
What are some of the most common questions you get asked? Like other than the ones I've already asked you, what are some ones I've missed that people are always like, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of them are like gotcha questions. Like, well, what about this? Or maybe it's genuinely curiosity. Like, how could I do this too? Type of questions.
Okay. Most commonly questions. What size is it? What did it cost? What do you do for heating and air conditioning, which we have a mini split system.
Okay. Yes.
And it works great. And I think in my videos, because the ceilings are really tall, they're 11.5 foot. And so in the kitchen, and they're so tall. We did upgrade the walls. Instead of being 6.5 feet, they're actually 7.5 feet. And then from the wall, it also is like the pitch up, several more feet. And so, you have almost 12-foot ceilings. And so the heating and air conditioning systems are up really high. And so I think a lot of people have said, well, I don't see, ductwork. And I'm like, well, it's there. You just can't see it because it is really high up towards the ceiling. So we do have a mini split system. Okay. It works great. What other questions do we have? Permitting. That's another huge question. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have asked.
I'm looking through your reel and seeing like a lot of questions, obviously on paint colors and things like that, which you probably include mostly in your plan.
I do. It's in my plan, but it's also, I have a reel on it in my Instagram. And so I have it set up to where anytime someone says the word paint or color, I automatically message them. And it sends them that reel because I could not keep up with the amount.
Yeah, that's like the most common question. Like everybody's asking that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. And it's interesting, this color on my doors, our accent color, it's pigeon by Faro and Ball. But
I love that.
A lot of people, some people call it blue, some people call it green. And it's definitely a chameleon color. You can see it either way. But that's the most asked color is my doors. What color is that? So
I'm pretty sure that's the color that in my last house, I did like a color match to Faro and Ball and did Carolina Gold by Benjamin Moore.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure because it also looks blue and green because my sister's used it. My mom has used it. And in some people's, like in certain lights, it looks like in my pantry, in my last house, it looked very, very green. But then on my mom's wall in one spot, it looks very, very blue.
It's so interesting. I've used it. This is my second house that I've used it in. And it does look different, a little bit different in each house. But that's my most asked question.
That is. I'm like, I'm just trying to find some more questions and everything's just paint. There are people that want to know like the grand total, like what did this cost, which I think's a very natural question if you're considering doing something like this. Mostly the motivation is, of course, money savings, because this is the way to get to a property without having a huge mortgage.
Yeah.
So,
and in our guide, I actually do give them my budget, everything that we spent money on, how much we spent on it. Obviously, it's going to vary, right? Because, we did this several months ago and it all depends on so many things. But and then I gave them a blank budget too, so where they can go in and fill in because, one thing I really wanted was like quartz countertops, but that wasn't in the budget. And so I cut that out. So we also give them that too, to kind of go through, this is what we spent, but fill in, what your quote is.
Right.
So, because that has been the most asked question too, is what size is it? How much did it cost? Where do my kids sleep? What's upstairs? I haven't showed the upstairs too much because it's like Lego town up there. And so it's always, they're three little boys who, just, build up there all day. I did recently film it though, so I will share it, but that's a huge question too.
That's for a special day.
Yes.
Ours is always covered with Legos and cards.
Yeah. Yes.
They have, I don't even know how many cards.
Yep.
I'm kind of sick of that thing, but it just is what it is. And I'm like, that's just contained to that room, which is fine.
It's kind of nice because they go up there and they love it, because in our old house, I was always telling them, pick your Legos up, put your Legos away,
Right.
And they go up there and they just have so much fun, and I don't bother them because I can't see it. So
there's really no reason for you to go up there much. I mean, if that's the only space up there, why would you really need to?
But I do. I go up there and I change sheets, and I do pick up sometimes if the baby goes up there and destroys Legos. I kind of feel a little bit bad, like I should help clean up. But but they love it. They honestly, they play. That's all they do. They sleep, They play with their Legos up there. But yeah, I think that was another one of the main questions is what do you do for, or, what is upstairs?
Yeah.
And so, and yeah, they love it. It's like their little clubhouse. So
Was there any part of you that ever, like after getting it done and it being so beautiful, that thought maybe we don't need to build a house, or not so much?
yes, there has. When it was done, my husband said, let's just stay here. But as we've lived here, and our oldest just turned 11. And so by the time our house is done, I mean, we still probably have another 12 to 18 months here. So, he'll be a little bit older. I think we'll be ready for that. However, It hasn't been like, there's no day where we're like, oh, this is awful. We're so thankful. That's mostly our hearts are in like a season of thankfulness that we can be out here. We can have a home that we love in this like little season of waiting until we feel ready to start our build. And we absolutely could stay here longer. I will say I look forward to having my own bathroom again and not sharing it with 4 boys.
Yes.
That's the
I can
main
see that.
thing.
See, we haven't in so many years, because in this house, there's only 2 bathrooms, but one's upstairs, one's down. And so it's not your own.
Yeah.
And then the same in our last house. So I'm sure that'll be really great. Like I haven't experienced that in so long, but I do think I'm looking forward to it. You don't have to have it, but I guess it would be kind of nice, to have your own bathroom space.
Absolutely. To just have that space again. Yeah. So we really haven't felt like anything's lacking. That's just the one thing is once in a while which we will put a bathroom in our shop. We just haven't, it's plumbed. We just haven't done it yet. So that will help. But yeah, I would say that's probably been the biggest struggle is just the one bathroom, but also, and I say struggle, but it really hasn't been that bad. It's just once in a while you're like, oh, I just wish I had my own bathroom without all these little boys in it getting toothpaste everywhere. And,
Yes.
But I know that I will miss this season one day. So with little boys all over
I actually know 2 families. Well, one, a friend of mine, she has several children. Yeah. They live in a tiny house that they've added on. So they added, first it was just like for many years, just kind of like yours where there was a large kitchen living area, but then there wasn't a ton of space for the kids, and they added on another bedroom and a porch. And after doing that, the plan was always to build a big house. They kind of were like, I don't know that we need the house. Yeah. But it took a while for that to happen. It sounds like you guys are ready to actually build a house soon. So
the
house is happening.
And one thing that my husband and I both, we dream of, like for our house, for our kids getting older, we want to be the home where everybody wants to come hang out, right? Like we want all the kids to come.
Yes, that is my big goal in life.
We want
exactly. I want a big old house, and
that's what we want. We want all the boys at our house, all the kids. We want the youth group. We would really want to lead a small group. Kids. Like it is on our hearts to lead small group through our church. And that's something it's not going to stop us living in this small house. Like we will do it outside this summer.
Yeah. And that family does that they do.
Absolutely.
But something about having the house too, there have been families like that in churches over the years that I'm like, yes, you're the one who like, we're glad that you exist because where else would we go? And so I agree. Like it'd be nice to be that person in the future.
That's what we really look forward to is we want to know that our kids, like where they're at. And so we just want to be the home where all the teenagers want to come hang out and their parents or whatever. And we really want to have, the space for that. And so that's something that, is bigger than us, right? We want to use our home to like glorify the kingdom and bring those people into our home. And all of our kids' friends. With 4 boys, I'm like, wow,
we're going to have a lot of...
Right, and they're going to be wild. And I'm like, oh, they're going to be like jumping off things.
See, I'm already living in that world right now.
Okay, yeah.
Although my oldest son is your oldest son's age.
Yeah.
And then now that we live in town, there's lots of neighbors. Yes. And and I have 6 sons, but as far as the ones that are like playing and roughhousing, 5. And then neighbors. And I'm like, there is literally like at all times, like 7 boys, like just Nerf guns, like all throughout the house. And yeah, it's wild.
But I would rather
really
know
wild.
exactly where they are, right? And what they're doing. And I don't mind the noise and all of it. So that's really what we look forward to, is having all the kids, you know, at our house and outside with the dirt bikes and whatever they do.
That's my ultimate dream too.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm just curious. Sorry, this wasn't on the script, but
that's okay.
What kind of house are you designing for your future house?
Yeah. So I once again took graph paper and I drew it on a piece of paper. And my mother-in-law is very talented. She can on the computer, she can make it into a floor plan for me. It's not ones we'll actually use, but it's ones that I can actually visualize, right? She puts cabinets in there so I can really get an idea. And then we'll obviously have like an actual person who designs the plans.
Oh, the architect. Or maybe,
the
right?
Architect.
Yeah.
There you go. So I have once again taken it to paper, designed it. My husband loves a farmhouse. I love an English cottage. And so we're kind of like marrying those together. So there'll be like some stone but also like a big wraparound porch. So we're still kind of in the design phases of it. But and I love all my bedrooms upstairs. I just I don't know. I don't want to be on a different level than my children. I think I worry too much, like safety. Like I want to be where they are. And we also don't do other kids upstairs in our house because our last house was, 2-story. And so we'll have our homeschool room and our like hangout room, everything downstairs, and then sleeping all upstairs. So,
okay.
Are you doing a 1 or 2-story?
We're doing a 2-story. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're doing finished attic space as well. So it's not really 3-story, but
nice.
It's just, it'll look like a 2-story. But yeah, we're going to do that from the very beginning. So plan for it.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like the hangout area?
Kind of. We think it'll be possibly like there'll be 2 big rooms up there and big, but they're, of course they're going to be up in the attic, but possibly boys and girls, but maybe office and girls because the boys take up so much other space. So we'll see, but I want all the options, and we're definitely going to make more bedrooms, but less space in each bedroom. I think that's going to possibly work out best for our older situation. Yeah. That's going to be, we already have 16, 14, almost 12. So they're all getting ready to be, big people soon here.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering how old your oldest was. So 16.
16. Yeah. But the oldest 2 are girls. And yes, that's different. They're not near as wild and crazy.
Okay. I don't have girls, so I don't know, but I hear they are different. Boys, I have nieces. And it's funny when we get together, I have to remind my 4-year-old that my nieces don't always want to like wrestle. So they don't. They're like, they look at him but I'm like, I'm so sorry, girls. He's so used to only having brothers. And they're just so
you have all 4 boys, right?
4 boys. Yes.
Okay.
We number 4 was a surprise. We didn't know what he was. My first home birth. And so all my boys were there and they thought for sure they were getting their sister. And I
still know.
Pulled him out and I said, it's a boy. And they were like, okay. So now they keep asking me when we're going to have another baby. And I'm like, oof, guys, that means you can have 5 brothers, right?
Well, yeah, because I have 6 boys in a row and so does my sister. So it's okay. In my world, like people always have stuff in a row. Like my parents had 4 girls. Yeah. My sister and I, we had a few girls and then the 12 boys. So it's just.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So your sister also has 8 kids?
She actually has 1 girl and 6 boys.
Okay.
And so together, like we're very close in age and we're close. So between the 2 of us, we had 3 girls in a row and then 12 boys in a row. Yeah.
Wow. So that's amazing.
We got a really cute picture recently. And
so fun.
Right now they're perfectly stair-stepped, which I won't share this photo on social media, but like it's the best. It's so good because it goes mine, hers, mine, hers, mine, hers, mine, hers, all the way down through 12. And sometimes, you have one random kid that's kind of the outlier, like they're tall or they're short. Nope. They're all literally, it's like the perfect line, just like this.
I love it.
And I just have to share this for, I think it was 7 days. They were 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. But then the ages changed for 7 days.
So
I didn't even
cool,
realize it during those 7 days. But I thought
Yeah.
back and I'm like, wait, his birthday was that day. His birthday is that day. I'm like, oh my goodness, Laura. Like they were literally
That's so cool.
perfectly. Yeah. So it's special.
Oh my
but
gosh, I love that. Cousins are, besides your siblings, cousins are your best friends. So siblings and cousins.
Yeah. Yes. Cousins are so special.
They are.
They're so special. And I want them all over all the time. And like you said, that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of boys. And
but that's okay.
You're going to have the space.
You're going to have a home for it. So and the outside area too, because you have your farm.
That's one of my biggest focuses. Yeah. Is the outside because the house, like I'd like a nice size kitchen and I'd like a couple tables. So that way, if there's 2 like 9 or 10 foot tables, you can host a lot of people, but the outside space. Yeah.
It's huge.
Do you have any special plans like for your outside space? Other than just like lots of it? Yeah,
just a garden, lots of garden area and animals. And, we would love a pool at some point because it gets a little toasty in South Carolina.
Yes, South Carolina is a good place for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's not as hot as Houston, but and we have a little creek and, the boys go in there and that's so fun. But yeah, just basically so a fun thing about our property is we're only on a few acres, but my dad, who does not live here, he lives in California. He actually owns all the land around us. So behind us,
that's the ultimate dream.
Yeah. And he doesn't do anything with it. It's just farmland and woods. And so there's deer stands so we can hunt it. There's, my kids take like dirt bikes and go-karts back there. So we have access to, 55 acres.
Yes.
And so that's really special that, I don't necessarily even have like neighbors either because just across the street, but behind me and to my sides, I just see woods. Mm-hmm. And that was something we really loved about this, property was having access to all of that. So,
well, yeah, that's just a given. If you can get land that borders something like that, like that's how I grew up. So my dad and mom owned, I think like 40 acres, but then my grandpa owned 400 and it was attached to it. And so I grew up in my mind on 400 acres. My parents didn't own it all, but that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
You have access to, that was such a great way to grow up.
It is. And especially when you have all these, boys and kids. And so that's kind of the plans for the outside is just as much outside as possible. And
sounds good.
With an engine, they're like ready to go ride it and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much, we haven't started much of it. We have like a tiny grass area with a trampoline. So this spring is lots of grass and hopefully a garden. So, because we've definitely missed that. Last summer we were moving. And so we sold our home with my garden. And so, you sold yours as well. And so
we'll experience that problem this summer. We got through the whole summer at our property.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't move until November. We didn't sell our house.
Okay.
Our house closed in December.
Okay.
So next summer is when I don't know if we'll just put one in at the farm and just, go over there every day. I think that's probably what we'll do. Like, it's not going to work out for me to not have like my own homegrown produce at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you had chickens, right? So where are they now?
So I gave several to a friend, but we actually kept about a dozen. We just right here in town, we have a dozen chickens. And so we're still getting eggs and all of that. Yeah. And then my parents have property. So we brought the pony there and the dog's just an inside dog now, which he's a farm dog. So it's not like ideal at all. But he just lives in the house. And our dairy cow died a little over a year ago. Because everybody's like, where are all the animals? I'm like, we actually didn't have that many animals when we sold it. We only had chickens, the pony, the dog, and then some cats. And the cats just are here. Yeah. They're just running around.
Yes.
We were maybe not going to be able to catch them. It took a couple times. And I was like, I think they're about to inherit some cats because we cannot get them. And then we ended up getting them.
Okay.
So,
we could not leave Texas without our 2 cats. I don't think my kids they would not. So we actually had to catch them the night before because, they're out hunting. And I'm like, we're not going to catch them at 4 o'clock in the morning.
They're hard.
I know.
Yeah,
And we were pulling
our
out
last
like,
house when we sold it, they just inherited them because we tried and tried, and you weren't going to get them. They're cats, So
yeah. So, but these cats, they do come around a lot. They love my kids. And so we did catch them, but we didn't dare. It was a 2-day drive out here with all of our stuff. And we didn't dare let them out, right? Out at the Airbnb.
Say if you open the door.
So we put a litter box in there and
they're
they,
gone.
oh my gosh, they were in my husband's truck and he said they meowed for 2 days. So on the way out here.
When we finally caught our cats, we originally caught them. We had them in a little kennel. And then when we picked the kennel up, like the door opened and then pew. And so then we're like, so then the next time we came back is the final time. Like if we don't get them this time, like we're not getting them. We like caught them and they're like, they were sitting on my lap the whole drive because we weren't going to risk that again. And so anyways, we have our cats, we have our dog and our chickens.
So you have the cats, you have the dog and the chickens. Okay. Yeah. We left our chickens, but it was a little bit too hard. We moved, it was a 14-hour drive. We weren't going to move.
Right. You moved far.
We moved far. And so not as far as California to Houston. That was a 3-day drive.
Wow. Okay. I'm not picturing that in my head, but I guess that makes sense.
It's really far. It's 3 days. If you do 3 like 9 to 10 hour days from California to Houston, Texas is just massive. It's like one whole day is in Texas. Right. And then
just in one. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then Texas to South Carolina it's only 14 hours. So, but it's 2, full days. So when you're pulling 2 trailers, then, all the children and all the things. So,
it's fun moving. It's great.
Man, we moved, 3 times last year from,
our
house to we moved from our property in Texas had 2 houses that had a rental house on it. And so we weren't ready to move away from Texas yet because my husband had to like get his business kind of like going there. He has a lot of clients there. And so we moved into the rental house. The buyers let us live there for a few months. And then we moved to the rental house in South Carolina. And then from the rental house into the shed.
And those are all like legit moves because if you're going to live somewhere for 2 or 3 months or whatever, to me, it's worth just fully getting settled in because I just wouldn't want to live in that halfway, even for more than a couple of weeks, I feel like. Man, you really have me thinking about this. I'm like, man, I wish we just could be on our property right now. It's winter, so it's not that exciting, but come spring, I'm going to be like, can we just get a tiny house? How do we, what can we live in? Can we just get a tent?
Yeah. Well, and I think you could actually so we have a 48 foot and I want to say some companies make them up to maybe 52, 54 feet. But you could get creative and I've seen them with 2 bedrooms and the loft, or there was originally a loft over the kitchen. Like I've seen a family, they're in Texas. They have a loft over their living room and like the bedroom, like one for boys, one for girls. You can get creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll design you a floor plan.
I cannot wait to be out there again.
So,
all right. Or not again for the first time. It's pretty. And,
yes. Well, hopefully this summer you can have your garden and at least kind of get that going out there.
Yes.
Because I know that's so important for just your family and how you live your life. So
absolutely. All right. Well, tell the listeners where they can find you, where they can follow along with you and all that you're doing and get the plans and your design guide and all of those resources.
Sure. So on my Instagram is Home of Hollins. I have all the links on there for the design guide and a lot of the questions have been answered. And then also I just started YouTube. I'm very new at it, but that was something people requested was longer videos. And so also Home of Hollins on YouTube. And I've shared.
I didn't realize that.
I'm very new at it. I don't know. I'm very good at it. I did post one video. I got some feedback. I recorded another one, which hopefully is better quality. And so I will be, and a little bit more details. So I'm posting that soon because that I really go through and I show them like inside my pantry and inside my closet, all the spaces that people really want to see. I don't necessarily want to show, but I did.
Yeah.
And so that way you can kind of see all those details though. I showed the loft and then it will show the outside. So for a longer video is definitely on YouTube, but Instagram has a lot more of like my links to where I've got things. And then also the plans, and the plans are on my website and they're available to download.
JadeMagnolia.com.
Yes, it's
Okay.
JadeMagnolia.com. I know. I had a creative business. I was in the wedding industry. And then I kind of shifted just to like being home with my kids. And so I need to rebrand my website.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just was making sure we get you to the right spot. I was over on your YouTube looking at your shed tour. That seems like people are just as interested over on YouTube as they are on Instagram. So that's awesome.
It's very interesting. I'm so new to YouTube. My kids know a lot more about it, and they're like, Mom, you already have subscribers. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. I have no idea what I'm doing, guys.
Yeah.
And so I will try to be better over there on posting a little more detailed videos because, Instagram kind of caps you at however long or whatever.
Yeah.
So I will hopefully share more on there as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave that down in the description box or the show notes below as well. So thank you so much for sharing, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun and it was so nice chatting with you.
Yes, you too.
Thanks, as always, for listening to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. My husband Luke and I and our 8 kids work together side by side on our little homestead and use our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel to reach other homemakers, home cooks, and homesteaders with practical recipes in daily family life. For everyday sourdough recipes, make sure to check out our blog, farmhouseonboone.com. And to dig deeper, we do also offer a course called Simple Sourdough over at bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. That's all one word, bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. If you're looking to learn how we earn an income online, check out my free blog success masterclass at bit.ly/farmhouse blogging school and my YouTube course at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube course, all one word.